Senator Johnson is joining us now live. Senator, can you hear me?
Sure can. Wolf, how are you doing?
All right, good. Where are you now?
I'm in the Russell Rotunda. So right now it's just that third floor of the Dirksen building that was evacuated in a very orderly fashion. The Capitol Police are doing an excellent job, and we're going to apparently they're searching different rooms because there was a threat column. There's a suspicious package, and so they're doing their job.
And as far as you know, Senator, there's no all clear that's been given yet.
No, not yet. But again, the Russell building's open, the Hart office building's open. I think other areas, the Dirksen building haven't been evacuated. It's really that third floor right now.
So when you abruptly told everyone to leave that hearing room, what exactly did authorities tell you? What was the explanation?
Just that there was a threat calling in, and that we had to, the Capitol Police was clearing not only the hearing room but the floor, and so I just made that announcement, and we very quickly evacuated that hearing room and evacuated the building.
It was very orderly. We saw it all on video. Was it a bomb threat that was called in, Mr. Chairman?
All I know is it was supposedly a suspicious package. So I don't know what exactly the threat was, but obviously Capitol Police, we have to take these things seriously, and that's what we did.
How often does something like this happen? You've been a senator now for a while.
First time it's happened in my hearing room, but unfortunately, Wolf, in the world we live in today, this happens all too often. Officials have to take these things seriously. Thankfully, most of these are prank calls and false threats, but we do live in an era of terrorism, and we have to take these threats seriously because some of these threats are real.
Yeah, and people who think maybe there's some sort of hoax or prank, they don't realize this is a felony. They can wind up going to jail for a long time if they make these kinds of phone calls. All right, Senator, let's talk about some of the issues. You were holding this hearing on the TSA. You do oversight of the Transportation Security Administration. What's the latest? Because it was pretty alarming. About 70 or 80 employees of the TSA received jobs even though they were on a terror watch list here in the United States, and they were allowed entry into sensitive areas at airports and elsewhere. What's going on?
Well, the stovepiping between agencies, those stovepipes have still not been torn down, or they're being rebuilt. And so you don't have the free flow of information from one agency to the other. And so TSA is not made aware of the threat that these people pose. And so they were given clearance to work behind the scenes in airports. But that's only one of the problems. Another thing we were exploring in this hearing is the fact that there have been news reports that we had inspectors basically going through these airport security zones with what were simulated either explosive devices or weapons, and they failed to capture those things or detect them at a 95% or higher rate, which shouldn't surprise anybody. Let's face it, all those of us who travel on an ongoing basis realize that this is, in many respects, security theater. Not that there isn't some effectiveness to security theater, but what I'm trying to get is I'm trying to work with Secretary Jay Johnson, the new TSA administrator that hopefully will confirm very, very quickly, Vice Admiral Neffinger. I want them to start thinking outside the box. We need to be looking at what's the most effective in terms of security, but also what's the most effective in terms of costs of how do we keep this nation safe within the TSA. We've got to rethink our approach from top to bottom.
Well, Senator, I got to tell you, Mr. Chairman, I was shocked. You may not have been surprised. You obviously watch this a lot more closely than I do, that these representatives of the TSA, regular people who work there, the Inspector General reported that they made 70 attempts to go through TSA security at various airports around the country with fake bombs, with weapons or whatever, explosives, fake explosives. And 67 times, 67 out of 70, they got through. And that was pretty shocking to me, Mr. Chairman.
Well, we're looking for a technological solution. So we have these AIT machines that are supposed to be able to detect bombs, but then they don't detect a metal weapon. So, there are some pretty simple solutions. Is do a second step approach. Make sure you have a metal detector on the other side. But something else that I was just talking about in the hearing before we had to recess because of the threat is, what about bomb-sniffing dogs? They are incredibly effective. The person from GAO was saying, well, they're pretty expensive. We're spending $7.2 billion on the security theater. Let's take a look at what's going to actually work in a layered approach. We had a very good witness, a former and current air marshal also saying, maybe what we need to do is repurpose air marshals so they're more effective in what they do. So again, that's why I'm saying we've got to totally rethink what our approach is to airport security, transportation security. Take a look at what the mission is of the TSA. And Wolf, I got to point out, here's one of the problems. The TSA has basically two goals. One is to keep this nation completely safe, make sure we catch every potential threat, but at the same time make sure that passengers are being put through the system very efficiently. Those two goals are completely contradictory, and that creates part of the problem.
So I just want to be precise here, Mr. Chairman. When millions of travelers, they go to airports throughout the United States, they go through the TSA checkpoint, they take off their shoes, they take off their jackets, they put all their electronic stuff in a certain bin. They go through that whole process. You're saying this is largely theater? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think that was somebody else's word, somebody else's phrase, but to a certain extent it's true. And again, part of that security theater works. It does deter people. There's no doubt about it. And we do detect and we catch things. I told the story where I went to a Boy Scout event and they gave me a little package. I didn't have time to look at it, so I popped it in my briefcase. And in Milwaukee Airport in Terminal C, they caught that little pocket knife. So we've got a lot of TSA, I'd say the vast majority that are alert, that are really paying attention. But again, they're being given an almost impossible task. 100% security, but at the same time, the kind of throughput, the millions, 660 million passengers that we're screening. I kind of laid out all the statistics. It's an impossible task, so we got to be a whole lot smarter at the way we approach that security measure.
It's pretty shocking stuff to me, and I'm sure to millions of other people who are part of this, who go through these screenings all the time, if it's just theater and it's not really going to catch stuff that shouldn't be going through. Mr. Chairman, let us know what's happening as far as that phoned threat, that mysterious package that's forced you to evacuate your hearing room up in the Dirksen Center office building. We'll stay on top of that story. But thanks very much for sharing what's going on. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for your interest. Have a great day.
Thank you. Ron Johnson is the chairman of the Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee.